Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/Scott P. Gallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing you our weekly local marketing industry update. Now, next week's LMS member call is going to be Wednesday, September 23rd at 4 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, as well as our YouTube on channel, as well as our channel on YouTube. Man, today's one of those days that I really wish that I just had a working wireless headset. You know, you guys may know about my Bluetooth extravaganzas and everything. They can't work. I've got all the technology, spent the money, but I need to be wired. And the reason why I say that is because I'm stoked. It's amazing how much life can change so quickly. And, you know, I look back at 2 weeks ago and my lifestyle and whatnot, and how we've, you know, introduced this new premium program over at Local Marketing Source. I'm just absolutely thrilled with the way it's going now. It's granted, it's a little bit more effort on my part than I thought. We're spending more time with these students, but I've got these students into this program that are building these businesses that I know they're doing everything right in terms of activity. This is what you've got to do, burning that midnight oil. And, you know, I can take one student out of Toronto that's been a member of Local Marketing Source for 3 years, but never really took that action and never really had that push. And now he's working with a local business and has got his presence on the internet and the website. And it's just amazing how much this can come together and the feeling that it gives me to be able to give that effort. But even more exciting to me, I became a different coach yesterday. And I was thinking about this last night, about coaching. And the team that I'm going to be coaching, they are 10-year-olds, not just boys, 10-year-olds. There's one girl in there and a group of boys for ice hockey. And I thought, holy shit. You know, I get this phone call yesterday from a coach, and he's like, Scott, man, I really need your help. I really need a coach. And do you want to step up and be a coach? I was like, John, man, I've never coached before, dude. I don't know how to coach. Oh, you'll be able to do just fine, and, you know, you'll be able to get through and this and that. I was like, well, that's a big burden, man. I feel more responsibility working with parents' children than I do with people's businesses, right? And it's just amazing that, you know, I could walk into people's businesses and look at stuff and turn it around and say, all right, you know, start to improve. And knowing that a coach, I'm not there to do the work. You know, a coach doesn't play the game. A coach sits on the sidelines and sits back and watches that game. And when I started to think about it, I realized that, you know, coaching a hockey team with kids, or a professional hockey team, or managing a sales team, or coaching business owners to build their business are a lot of the same elements, whether it's kids, whether it's adults, whether it's female, male, black, white, whether they're educated, uneducated. We're all human beings, right? We all make the same face on the shitter, right? We've all got red blood. And so there's certain elements that are inside of us that works in that fashion. And I started to think about it, and I went, man, I want to talk about this stuff on my call because a little light bulb went up, and the word is about accountability. And I look at my students that are building this business versus students that buy into a program of mine, spend $100 a month, get access to a whole bunch of videos, get onto these calls every single week, and we've got people that are on these calls every single week, but it's those people that are on the calls that are the ones that I've noticed that have gone on to be successful, the ones that continue to burn that midnight oil, the ones that continue to put the pressure on themselves to be better and to be bigger and to do more. And whatever some of those motivations are, I look around my office right now and I see, got a picture here. I'm smiling, I'm laughing, and it's me and my son. Got another picture here of me and my son on a four-wheeler. Another one of him in the schoolroom, some of his schoolwork around. And then my business plan. And then I look at that business plan, and I also have my content strategy, my monthly content strategy, those things that are very, very important. And environment is an extremely important aspect. But what I'm getting at is in terms of accountability. And I know I talked about this last week with you guys, with my students and whatnot, and how many of you don't have a plan of any sort. It blows me away. And how can you get anywhere if you don't have a particular plan? And you know, like, I talk people and talk to people and said, like, listen, like, when I sit down in the morning, I look at yesterday's notes. Every single day I'm starting a new sheet in terms of managing. So I always know what needs to be done. And I said, well, all right, I've got to manage multiple students in my premium program now because I'm spending 6-7 hours a week on the phone with each and every one of these students every single week. And we're going through a whole multitude of tasks. I said, I can't let this fail. And so we invested into some project management software. And just the simplest task-based management that's online in the cloud. Every single premium student says to me, oh, this is great. You know, when I wake up in the morning and I go to work, I now know what I need to do. And I was like, well, duh. Yeah, how many people have told you in your life that you need a plan? And this is exactly what this plan is. And I can think of one student, he's billing 20 grand a month. And the fact of isolating and putting a plan together absolutely gives some of that direction. So both of us are thankful of how we're moving forward. It's fantastic. But somebody that's, you know, billing $250,000 a year still has built a business without a plan. Can you imagine where that business would be if the efficiency was put in place initially and the target focus rather than throwing some mud at the wall? Why people don't take the time to sharpen their axe, I don't know. I don't understand. And so when I'm going to be a coach of a little league hockey team, I think, well, I've never coached kids before. You know, truth is I've never played organized hockey before. Now, I grew up in Canada. I'm a Canadian. It's practically religion. I know hockey. I've played hockey. I know the game. I can play it. I can show them how to do certain things. But if it's like me going and showing you how to do something at Local Marketing Source, you get some value for that. But at the same time, you've actually got to execute it to get good at it and do it. Now, another element that I wanted to talk about that I thought that was rather important is some of these, the situation that I'm witnessing is the feeling of overwhelmness. And I honestly forgot how I felt when I felt overwhelmed in business for that mountain that needs to be climbed. I know now with my experience that when I put together a plan, whether it's 1 year or a quarter or if it's just an advertising, whatever it is that needs to be done, and I'm working on a few of them right now, no matter how big the mountain is, I don't feel that overwhelmness anymore, but I did. I remember how it felt. And I remember how that feeling has paralyzed me in the past. It reminded me of my facts story. That I would constantly find excuses to not achieve the goals or the success, or I would excuse myself based off the goals that I set forth by making up some sort of different excuse. And with each of these premium students, one thing I'm witnessing is inside every one of them, because I picked and chose who I wanted to work with. I wanted to make sure I had doers, and I do have doers. That inside every one of them, they just needed that little bit of guidance, that little bit of coaching on that sideline. And it reminded me the importance of that. Now, not everybody can afford to hire a coach for what they do, or you may want to get your business to a different aspect. But the objective that I'm talking about here is elements of accountability. And if you can't hold yourself accountable to your own self, you're going to constantly make excuses for yourself, and you're not going to be the best person that you can be. You're not, no matter what you do. So think about this. So get off the phone after you're hearing this. If you're hearing it live or you're hearing the recording, think about how you hold yourself accountable for what you need to do based off of what you set out to do. If you haven't set anything out to do yet, well, you got to get that plan in business and then have elements of measurement of accountability. But that word accountability, folks, I think is an element in every one of us. Whether we are playing for a hockey team, we need to be accountable to that team. If you show up for practices, you're going to get better. If you get out on the ice and you keep shooting that puck, you're going to get better. You've got to take action. You can't just sit there and keep watching YouTube videos about how to play hockey. You're not going to get better. There's no coach on this planet that's going to tell you to sit there and go and watch a whole bunch of videos to get better. What do you think my portal is? Just a whole bunch of videos. If you're paying me $100 a month to be a part of my membership, and you've sat there and watched videos and wondered 2 years down the road why you're still paying local marketing stores $100 a month to watch these videos, guys, cancel your membership. But it's those people that are listening to me right now that are live, that are holding themselves accountable. So one, well done. Give yourselves pats on the back, especially if you know wholeheartedly that you come to these things regularly because you're taking some action. If you don't have, and when I say a plan, holy shit, let me tell you about this. A buddy of mine, photographer, I've talked about him before. I think I kind of told the story last week a little bit, and he wants to spend a lot of money on being taught how to build a business plan. And as I'm working through him with consulting, I said to him today, I said, Mike, this is the way it's going to be. I said, you do what you want. If you want to go spend 2 months of your life to go figure out how to build a business plan and all the elements of a business plan, I could rip that business plan apart, and 80% of most business plans are bullshit. They don't have anything. There's 20% in there that are actionable, executable items. I said, so while you're going through that process, just work with me. Here's a 4-page document that I created for you. I'm helping him out, my buddy. And I said, this is our execution strategy for the next 12 months. This is what we're going to do. And I want you to follow along with this. So forget about all the other fluff of business plans. Just figure out what you need to do. Get rid of all the fluff, all the dog and pony show. And that's what I have next to me every single day, printed up. Plus, I have it on the internet that gives me the reminder so I can constantly see it. Folks, I don't know where I went off on this dissertation. I didn't know where I was going. But let's get into some overview. I haven't even told you what we're going to talk about today. Well, Google's putting a hammer down, so we want to talk about the robocalling, and it's been a big problem in the United States. So this is a plus for me and my business. Talk a little bit about tools today. The Link Explorer tool, and the Link Explorer tool with Bing. And then finally, I want to talk about CTR, click-through rates, influence of CTR on rankings, because there's been some changes with that. Now, robocalling, we all have agencies, at least everybody that's on the line right now. And you may have heard that, I've heard it before from my clients, I've heard it from prospects, I've heard it all around. Hey, Google just called me and they're trying to sell me SEO just like you have. I said, no, Google didn't call you. Well, yeah, Google called me. They're trying to sell me ads, AdWords spending, or this or that. I said, no, Google doesn't call you. Google did a little bit of calling for AdWord verification and whatnot. But it was very clear that it was Google calling you and they weren't trying to sell you anything. And in other words, there's businesses out there that have, for the last few years, have been utilizing cold calling scripts to creatively make it sound like that they're either A, Google, or B, high partnerships with Google that get them in the door for these business owners. You see, the one tough thing about this business that we're in today, there was no real grace time frame that I felt. I remember back in 2005 Doesn't matter who you talk to. You get the deer in the headlight look. SE what? Internet? Oh God, like business owners had no idea. Now business owners, for the most part, have an understanding of SEO, but they have a bad taste in their mouth for the most part in terms of what our industry really is. And part of it is because of these companies that position themselves as Google. And surprisingly, Google had done nothing about it. Yeah, it hurts my business, but I can debunk that myth fairly quickly. I think it hurts Google's business significantly. And I'm kind of surprised they've taken it this long to actually do something about it. But they're now coming down hard. And they're coming down hard on different agencies specifically. They filed a bunch of lawsuits yesterday and today in court, and it's some of them for 7 figures. It's a big deal. There's a lot of people stressed out in the local marketing industry that have done that, and so I thought I'd share that information. I think that's good for us because that's shutting down the BS that's out there. And us collectively as an industry, something that's kind of a piece of me that I know I want to be a part of, is to bring our industry, bring some professionalism to our industry. That you've got attorney associations that regulate attorneys. You've got the same thing for doctors and dentists and chiropractors. And with the amount of education that I have and the amount of education that I've taken, along with all of my experience, there's no doubt in my mind that I am as educated as any MBA out there, or as any MD or any DC or anybody with a doctoral. There's no doubt in my mind. All formal education essentially is a business behind it. And so I also feel like that the business we're in of marketing for local businesses is as delicate and difficult as any of these other doctoral professions that are out there. My point is that I walk and talk to some people. Sometimes I'm looked at as a spammer. And somebody that does spam email marketing versus a doctor of chiropractic are perceived in the world a little bit differently. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, some people perceive our industry as people that are sly, unethical, immoral, all of that. You buy what you want from me, but I'll tell you straight up that the words unethical and immoral to me are so deep into who I am that it costs me significant profit on an annual basis. I'm constantly looking up against my conscience to not, like when I started Local Marketing Source, we did a lot of things differently. It is still to this day, people sell information and it's hard to physically call the person. I said, well, if somebody's going to be spending money on me and I'm supposed to be teaching them something, I'd want to be able to get in touch with them. So let's put our phone numbers that are out there. When people put scarcity tactics in internet marketing in the product world and sold stuff at $97 and whatnot, the scarcity tactics, unless you have real scarcity, why would somebody put that up there? I mean, I've never done any scarcity. The only time I've actually ever done anything is with the most recent premium agency growth group, and I limited it to 5 seats. But that was legitimate scarcity because I didn't want more than 5 students. If I had more than 5 students, I may have underserved them. Thank God I did, because I'm spending twice the amount of time with them than I thought I was going to spend with them. And that's okay. I like spending the time because it's what's necessary to get the job done. It's not within the constraints of the service itself. So the aspects, I also believe that I've read a lot about Mark Zuckerberg and Larry Page and Sergey Brin. I've read about their upbringing. I've read about their parents. their households, their homes, their history, their education, activities that they do. I think these are all important. I don't think the apple falls far from the tree. You know, we are a product of our environment, and the first 7 years of our environment instill us. It's built into us, hardwired into us. So what does Mark Zuckerberg's first 6 years, 7 years look like? What does his parents look like? How did they conduct themselves? And Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Well, I'm going to share some opinion with you. I think Mark Zuckerberg is an asshole. I think he's a corrupt individual. I think he's got a lot of ego with him. I think that he is a controlling individual. Larry Page and Sergey, they come from 2 different countries. Their parents follow a lot of the same morals and values, you know, the lemonade stands when they were kids, and to promote this and to be a part of a community organization to give. So I generally believe that the helm of Google is a moral, ethical organization. A lot of people disagree with me on that. That's okay. I don't feel like Facebook is. I think Facebook's culture is around a different dominance than Google's dominance culture. I've never been inside these businesses, but I could probably write a book about feelings and theories and be pretty darn close to the culture between the 2 businesses. So I do believe that the major decisions of Google are ethical and moral in the best interest of human beings. Now, unfortunately, Google is a public corporation that has to answer to the shareholders. So it's feasible that that changes. But today, no. All right, moving on. What was I talking about? Yeah, I was talking about so yeah, this lawsuit, Google's really come down on it, and I just want to say that that's good. That's good. All right, these tools, you know, this link explorer tools, we've seen these ever since SEO, you know, we go, yeah, who had tools? Google went into some tools. Google started removing keywords, and basically as of October 1st, you know, Bing was the last of the big ones to remove their link tool, and it's out. So all the major search engines have taken all of our tools away to go and take a picture of who's linking to us in an easy way. Why? It was so nice to go into those tools and then go and look at your competitor and see their link count and then start to replicate some of their link count. And then they took the tools away from us and it made it harder. I'm not sure the words I want to use right now, but I get it. I'm surprised it's taken this long. As far as I was concerned, they gave us a tool that allowed us the ability, it opened the door to manipulation. In other words, it opened the door to SEO and started to close that door to marketing. It's irrelevant. We have other ways to do competitive research in a much more logical form. That's what we were doing, guys, is we were doing competitive research. That's another chapter in your marketing book, competitive research. How are we going to go and look at the competitors? How are we going to segment that audience, that market off of that? There's a dozen ways that we can do competitive research. And going and looking at link count is only going to skew your value because you're just getting, you know, because the algorithm says that this is valuable today, but then they improve their algorithm tomorrow and it doesn't have value the next day, and you went forward with that strategy, banking on the fact that your highest weight to organize the competitors from 1 to 10 was based off of a tool that could potentially change based off of algorithm and mark. Wow, it makes no sense to me. It's never made sense to me to do these. It was great if you wanted to manipulate and have short-term gains, but from a marketing perspective, the link tool had no value. If we want to find out how our competition has authority and exposure on the internet and how they're ranking #1, well, yeah, a lot of other ways. There's ways that have nothing to do with the internet to figure out how they do on the internet. I mean, it's marketing research, competitive analysis. So Bing's pulled this tool. I think it's good. I don't think it's necessary. I think what it's going to do is, well, we're going to slowly start to see, and I'm making a prediction, we're going to slowly start to see the science of SEO move away as the marketing of search marketing services become more and more relevant. And you see, the real problem is, though, is that marketing has to do with the psychology of people, right? It has to do with what goes on inside our heads. And us as marketers go and look at samples of groups, and we make determinations off of that, hypotheses and whatnot. And marketing of a psychology is very, very difficult to digitize. In other words, and measure. How does a search engine get an understanding of the psychology of a group in a certain geographical area that's achieved polarization for a certain topic? Well, I'm not here to get into all the details of it. Anybody that's, I look at the students that are on the line right now, you guys know all this. You know the elements and that, how do they measure trust and how authority? Of course, the science behind it is all changing, but if we can create real, genuine trust and real, genuine authority, the science of the algorithm doesn't matter. The last thing I wanted to talk about is just some discussion about CTR, click-through rates. And I don't know, what are your thoughts? Anybody on the line right now, what are your thoughts? Do you think click-through rate affects rankings? I remember one day one of my buddies was telling another buddy, and they were telling me about a conversation they had about what Scott does at work. He goes, I don't know what Scott does. He just sits there all day on the computer and clicks on Google web links. Like, what? So I don't know. I thought that's what you do. You just sit there and you keep clicking on websites, and that makes it go up to the top. All right. But what does CTR do? There's some people in the industry that say, hey, it affects rankings. Others say, no, it doesn't affect rankings. I mean, we don't know the answer. I can tell you about a couple of studies. I know that Andrew Scotland over at and MIM over at Moz just recently did some testing on it, an isolated test, and I could tell you that they isolated 2 factors, and that based off their factors, they say with a high vote of confidence that CTR is a factor of ranking. I think forgetting about doing tests and just looking at it logically, from a AdWords standpoint, CTR, what does CTR do for AdWords? It increases your quality score. What does increasing your quality score do? It vastly reduces your cost per click. So if you increase your click-through rate on AdWords, your cost per click decreases, which means you can get a cost per click cheaper than your competitor and get placed higher for less money. Drive them out of the market. So affecting and measuring and improving CTR in AdWords is massively important. We don't have as much influence on the organic side to change, for example, snippets, but we can. There are ways to change some of the snippets. But measuring the CTR and what influences your CTR is your title tags, your meta tag, your core description. your description of, you see, that description that you put on, for example, all the profile sites, and I teach at Local Marketing Source, you know, let's fill out the profile sheet and make a long description of a business and a short description of a business, and you know, marketing consistency, just like McDonald's. Every McDonald's you walk into, they all look about the same. So that consistency is important. That's your NAP, right? We talked about your NAP. Your NAP includes your description. Well, the more of that same description that you have out there, more likely that description is going to show up in the snippet of your SERP. So we do have more influence than you think in terms of the CTR. Following branding pimples, following branding principles, in theory, indirectly is going to influence and improve your CTR. Well, take CTR out of the equation for a moment. Take this internet out of it. Close your eyes. Get into a dark room. And just think about the fact that if you create a piece of marketing content and it is delivered to somebody, a CTR is really adoption. Do I or don't I want to read it? And the more people that are going to say, I want to read it, the more valuable that content is in the world. It's just the way it works. Supplies and demands, these are fundamental laws in our universe. And so with all of that dissertation, I know that these conversations are unequivocally transpiring inside of Google. People are sitting there and making these arguments. That from a user perspective, CTR is influenced by the snippet of information, and if it's of a higher value information, it's then going to command a higher CTR. If that's the case, then that content should have a higher authority and higher value of other content. And if that's the case, we know it ranks higher. Not only that, your snippets, all of these other pieces of information that you can demonstrate absolutely influence your conversion too. And that's essentially what CTR is. So Moz goes on and says, well, is CTR just a useless metric then? There's many arguments that it's really a useless metric. And I call BS on that. It is far from that. All right, I'm going to take 30 seconds here, come back, and answer any questions that you might have. I'll be right back, guys.
Well, thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week, so if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.